Okay, in this little video we're going to create a prefab. A prefab is short for prefabricated, so it's a template that we can reuse over and over. So a really simple way to make one is, let's say I had these three shapes here and wanted to have those as one prefab. I could just drag these down, but it's not going to let me do all three at once. So what I'm going to do, because we decided these all want to be linked, I'm going to create an empty game object. Let's say call it stack boxes, and I'm just going to take the two cubes and drag them inside that stack box. And I'm just going to drag that into my assets. I've made a prefabs table, so I'm going to have that there. And we see it's now turned blue. So what I can now do is just drag that prefab of stack boxes, and it has those exact same settings applied to it. And if I want to manipulate one of the prefabs, I can just go and modify those dimensions, and it will automatically update everything else. Let's just move that down so we can actually see it in the camera. So we can sort of see in our object, it's prefabs. I can also create a prefab directly in the project folder by right click, create prefab, and we're going to make one called player. And our player is just going to be a 3D object that's going to have a cylinder, and a sphere at the top. I'm going to just 2.5, move that and make that sphere 1.5. In all dimensions. I'm going to press Ctrl D to duplicate that sphere, but now I'm going to shrink it to 0.5 on all dimensions. I'm going to change my perspective, so I'm looking at the front, and we're just going to drag those up and a bit towards us so that it looks a bit like an eye. And we're going to rename that, we'll call it eye, and we're going to drag that onto that other sphere. And now what this has done is it's updated these dimensions in relation to its parent. So this eye is x of 0.3 across from there. So I'm going to change it to 0.25. I'm going to duplicate it again. But now I'm going to do it at minus 0.25. So that now, where has it gone? Oh, did it at 25, not 0.25, minus 0.25. So now if we move to that location, we've got a little player. Then when we look at the player from the front, it has a nice head. And we're just going to move that up a little bit so it's a bit closer. And let's put a 3D object that is a cube. And we'll just position that at the origin, 0, 0, 0. We'll move it up 1. Okay, no, that's not quite right. 1.5, so it sort of sits inside that player's head. So we've got a very basic player. I'm just going to save that, go back to my scene, and now I can take the player and drag them onto my scene. What I can also do with the player, I might actually want the camera attached to him. So I'm going to go up to my game object, add a camera, and if we zoom out we can see which way the camera is facing. So I'm just going to drag it back up a little bit and rotate it down about 30 degrees. Now for moving the camera around, we can switch between global and local mode. Okay, so we've got my camera. Now if we play this with the scene, what we notice is that camera when we're running it with the player, it will actually switch over to the one that's attached to our player. So that is quite cool. Okay, so this concludes basically creating prefabs. Next we'll have a look at how to use materials.